We're handing out grades on the DNVR Broncos podcast today. Was the Broncos season a success? And then we're diving into the Broncos offense, defense, and special teams. Do they all get A's? Or were there some failing grades thrown in there? We're breaking it down, and it all starts now. Were the Denver Broncos a straight A student in 2024? We're handing out report cards, maybe have a little parent-teacher conference with the Broncos, and we're going to hear from the top dogs of the Broncos, Greg Penner, Sean Payton, George Payton, today on the DNVR Broncos podcast. To help us break this down, we are the DNVR Broncos podcast, live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores, and presented by Bet365. Use that code DNVR365. Deposit $10, place a $5 bet, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets when you sign up. And one more thing, I got to introduce us. We are, to my left is Super Bowl 50 champ Todd Davis. To my right is Henry Chisholm. Behind the camera is Yahir, and Zach Stevens rocking and rolling with you today. Fellas, what type of mood are you in? Are you ready to hand out some good grades? Are you ready to be lenient, or are you going to be a stickler?
I'm in a good mood. Nothing bad has happened. You know what I'm saying?
You got honked at.
Yeah.
I did get honked at.
You did get honked at.
I was on my phone, so.
You deserve it. Okay.
I deserve it. It's okay.
So we were driving in, and there was a red light, and Todd's right in front of me. I'm behind Todd, and cars go ahead of him, and I'm like, do I honk or do I not honk? And I'm like, you know what? Todd knows what my car is. I'm not going to honk at him. And so I'm like, I'll see how long this goes. It was only a couple of seconds.
Did you just flip him off instead?
Oh, yeah, I was screaming at him, and and then the car behind me honked. So I had to let Todd know, hey, that wasn't me. I didn't honk at you.
Yeah, the only people in Denver, they're really nice. They don't honk. Like in LA, as soon as it flashes green, everybody's honking. Like it just turned green. But no, that was my fault. On my phone.
Well, it was only like 15 or 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Usually when that happens and I'm waiting, I like to just see how long it takes. Because, like, I'm willing to sit there. Like, I don't have anywhere to be. Like, I'll sit there for, like, 30 seconds if this person's really that oblivious. Which you would never do, but...
No.
These
that's
other,
how
the strangers...
Coloradans are, I think. Most of them are nice enough to let you get whatever you got going on your phone done, and then when you're ready to go...
It must be important.
They let you go. Yeah.
Wasn't the honking in New York City so bad that they, like, banned honking?
Really?
I think so. That doesn't sound right, though, but there's something to that. Maybe Yahir can look that up. I think it was like 5 years ago or something. Maybe it was just like pointless honking they banned, which I just have to imagine is New York City and LA all the time.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It's illegal unless it's warn others of immediate danger.
Yep, there we go. Okay, they did ban honking, so maybe LA needs to do that because Coloradans just kind of live that way.
So people getting pulled over like, you honked. I heard you honk. Like, is that really happening?
I'm sorry, I just brushed my horn.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. I feel like in movies, everybody's always honking in New York.
Well, they used to.
Probably 5 years ago.
Yeah.
They changed it in the 1970s.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
They're not.
I guess.
Yeah, Henry, not everything you see is real.
I would have thought that one would be, though.
Yeah, that feels real. Like people are, I don't know. The times I've been in New York, can't remember if people are honking, but it feels like they were.
We have to pay attention next time.
It does.
Next time in New York, have to remember. I haven't been in New York in like 10 years. It probably won't be there soon.
Yeah, and even if you go to a football game, you don't go to New York at all. You fly into Newark, which is in New Jersey, then you go to MetLife, which is in New Jersey, and still somehow New York has two teams named after them, even though there's no teams there. And speaking of the NFL, before we dive into today's conversation, want to take a look around the news cycle that's going on. When there's news, we'll bring it to you guys, and there's two pieces of news that I want to get to. The first one dropped when we were on air yesterday, and it's a really cool one. So PFWA, it's the Pro Football Writers of America. It pretty much is the collection of all local media that covers the team pretty much just on a daily basis. So typically the people that know these teams the best from a media perspective, they put out their all NFL teams, all AFC team, and all NFC team. They're all NFL team is pretty much their first team all-pro team. The Broncos didn't have one, not two, not three, but the Broncos had 4 players on the all-NFL team, which was the most in the NFL. No other team had 4 players on this, which is just incredible. For a team that was supposed to be the worst roster in the NFL, according to so many outlets, has the most all-NFL players on this list.
That's crazy. Are you a part of this organization?
No.
You're a pro football writer.
I am. That's what I do. I'm going to go home. I'm going to write about pro football.
You know this team better than not anybody, but like
Yeah.
most people.
I don't know.
Well,
We might have to play a game of trivia.
I'm
I'm not going deep roster. I can't do that.
No,
but
I would.
yeah.
I am a
I
pro
know you.
football
Yeah.
writer, so I guess that means I know more than Henry about this team.
Oh,
Wow.
I am.
you
yeah,
voted?
Yeah, I
Oh,
voted.
very
I
nice.
did my part to help these 4 get in.
Very cool. Did you vote all Broncos or do you vote
Oh,
around
all
the league?
Broncos.
Yeah.
Who was, well, I don't want to throw anyone on blast, but whoever the worst Bronco was, oh, they're getting that nod.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I wouldn't do that. But the 4, you guys can guess them. Who were they? Pretty much.
Benito,
Yeah.
Yep.
Quinn.
Pat,
Boom, boom. Yep. One more.
Marvin.
Marvin. There
oh,
you
of
go.
course.
Perfect. So
No Zach Allen.
I think there's, no Zach Allen. Unfortunately, he did get my vote, but I think there's 25, 26, because I think they have 2 returners, so 26, and Broncos had 4 of them.
That's
That is
wild.
pretty darn impressive. So the awards just keep coming down the pipe for the Broncos, and we'll tell you about it every time it happens. And let's get one more piece of news. Let's get a Riz update, Henry. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do now. Let me get this right. Darren Rizzi is interviewing with the Bears to be their special teams coordinator.
Is he interviewing? I don't know if he's interviewing. What I
don't
saw
know.
was the Bears have strong interest or heavy interest. I don't know, something that says they have a lot of
Maybe
interest
that's all
in,
it is.
in
Yeah.
bringing Rizzi over there, as well as
Oh,
I
yeah,
believe
maybe
I
no
saw
interview
like
yet.
6 other teams have strong interest in him. So what
Oh,
seemed
over a half
like
dozen from Schefter.
over a half dozen. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Like could be an agent trying to help his client out, or it could be real. But also, I mean, Rizzi's also a really good special teams coordinator. I believe his special teams have finished in the top 5 according to some collective special teams guides. I think every year he's been in New Orleans. So Henry and I, we talked about this last week. We said Darren Rizzi's the front runner to replace Ben Kotwika. We put him at like a 90% that he'd be the Broncos special teams coach. Maybe the Broncos have a little competition. But guys, if the Broncos have competition, isn't it obvious that the Broncos will blow that competition out of the water with not only a Sean Payton connection, but I have to imagine if Sean tells Greg Penner, I want this guy, let's make him the highest paid special teams coordinator in the NFL, Greg will say, okay, what's the price? Then I'll write it.
Sounds like a win-win to me.
I mean, just because you have money doesn't mean you want to spend the money.
But the
You know,
Penners
they've been
have proven
spending
that
it,
they
though.
do.
They have. But yeah, I mean, there are. I doubt that's going to be a situation where they're like, well, we'll just double the salary and you're going to come here. But maybe I'm wrong.
So do you think it'll come down to Rizzi's experience with Sean, if he liked working with Sean or not, or if he wants to go work with a young coach like Ben Johnson in Chicago?
For Rizzi, like
Yeah.
that decision, no, I don't know. I think it's all about the money. It's
Yeah.
all about the Benjamins.
Yeah, I don't
At
know.
the end of the day, come on now.
Yeah.
For double pay, if I don't like you, I'll still work with you.
Did the Bears get one of those punters? Did they get like Torrey Taylor maybe?
I don't know Bears punting
They're-
situation.
They're not, especially coordinators are not following.
You don't think they care? You don't think they
No,
care?
not at all.
Because that's what I was. They do have Torrey Taylor. He's got a cannon. I mean, I don't know what would motivate him. It'd probably be like where you want to live, who you want to work with.
Isn't a cannon an arm? What would you call a leg?
Leg cannon.
Of
No,
No,
what
a
would
boot or a
you could. He has a boot.
yeah.
That sounds like I'm Canadian.
What would,
the boot.
he's got a launcher.
What?
Get a little.
Doesn't launch cannonballs. Yeah.
But yeah,
Do you think so? I agree with you, Todd. A special teams coordinator wouldn't follow a punter. Would a special teams coordinator follow a kicker? Like 7 years ago, Justin Tucker. Let's say there was an opening with the Ravens, and it's like maybe the best kicker of all time. Would a special teams coordinator go choose the Ravens because of Justin Tucker?
Probably not, because there's so many other things that you can be
Yeah.
bad at. Like even if Justin Tucker is doing his job, but punt return team sucks, your kickoff return team sucks, punt team can't cover. I mean, even if he's making kicks, you won't have that job for very long.
Yeah, it's true. And even if he doesn't make kicks, it's probably not being blamed on the special teams coordinator. It's probably just just fire the kicker and move on, get a new one.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll see what Rizzi's intentions are and who he follows. So that's the news update for the day. Of course, around the NFL, the big news update is Ben Johnson going to Chicago, which could impact the Broncos in this situation. But let's dive into today's conversation. Hear from Sean Payton, hear from Greg Penner, hear from George Payton on if this season was a success, after I give a shout out to our friends over at Ice Shaker, where one of the things that the Broncos could sell Darren Rizzi on is this Broncos Ice Shaker. We've got it on set right here, and it is a cool design, but not only is it a cool design for your protein powder, for your mixed drinks, whatever you want to keep ice cold for up to 30 hours. Ice Shaker has got that at 25% off if you use the code ALLCITY25. It's all one word, AllCity25. You're going to get 25% off over at iceshaker.com, and you're going to want to check out their product line because they have partnered with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and MLB, officially licensed with all of those places, meaning you can get Broncos, you can get CU, you can get so many different teams, all of your favorite teams, customized over at Ice Shaker, and Ice Shaker is going to keep your ice cold for 30 hours. It also has a built-in mixer, so you know those little balls that you typically have in your protein shaker that bounce around and they sound all funny, and they can get lost. Not with Ice Shaker. It's just built right into the cap. So if you want to check them out, head to iceshaker.com. Use that code DNV or AllCity25 for 25% off your order. Ice Shaker, show your support for your teams with the best brand of workout bottles on the market, Ice Shakers.
Also, I guess you should get Verizon, but also if you already have Verizon, they have an awesome opportunity for you. They're bringing the Super Bowl experience to all 30 NFL cities, and basically it's opening up all the stadiums to Verizon customers. They're calling it the Verizon Super Bowl Fan Fest. Of course, that's February 9th, the day of the Super Bowl. Here in Denver at Empower Field, they'll have Emmanuel Sanders as their host. Super Bowl 50 champion, of course. They'll have live music, Miles the mascot, upgraded eats from local Denver chefs. So not just normal food, upgraded. Tour the locker room, try your hand at football challenges, long games, and more. Watch the Super Bowl from inside the stadium, and it should be pretty cool. Like I said, it's all over the country. So even if you're a Bronco fan who doesn't live here, if you live in LA, you want to go to SoFi for the game, you can just go do that. But it's only for Verizon customers. So if you want to join them and be a part of the largest simultaneous Super Bowl party ever, which is free for all Verizon customers, switch to Verizon at your local Verizon store, grab tickets, and get all the details at VerizonFanFest.com.
And shout out to our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. All right, fellas, before we hear from the Broncos brass, I want to know from you guys, straight up, was this season a success for the Broncos?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of lame that it's a success, and hopefully in the future, just making the playoffs won't be a success. Lame? It just sucks that it's like we're all happy that they made the playoffs, you know?
There's a lot of teams that didn't make the playoffs.
Man. It's true. And the Broncos, it's successful. But I don't know. I grew up in a time when every year you thought they had a chance to win the Super Bowl. And so, I mean, hopefully, if they do this again next year, hopefully it doesn't feel like a success. But yeah, I mean, they checked all the boxes.
Todd?
Yes. That's a strong yeah. I think Henry's just yeah.
No,
I definitely feel like it's a success. Anytime you make the playoffs this season is a success. Now, when you're a top tier team and your only goal is the Super Bowl, then that's another level. And I think there's about 5 to 6 teams every year that can say that that's their goal. And if they don't hit that, then it's not a success. But for everybody else, all 26 other teams making the playoffs, you're doing a good job, guys. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep things on the up and up, and I think that's where the Broncos are, and they did it ahead of schedule. So that's what makes it even more of a success. Is people thought they were 2 years away from making the playoffs, or 2 years away from winning 10 games. They're supposed to win 5 games this year. Like ultimate success I think it was a really good year for the Broncos. Did they win a Super Bowl? No, they did not. But they exceeded all expectations from the media, from the fans. They did much better than anybody had hoped. So I'm happy. I don't know if you guys are, but I feel good about it.
My answer is yes. I want that to sound even more resounding than Todd's yes, because 100%, like not even a 99% successful. This was 100% successful. I think if you were to tell anyone, Hank, even if I told you before the season, Broncos make the playoffs and lose 31-7 to the Bills in the first round, I feel like you would have taken that.
Oh, anybody would.
Anybody would. So right there, that is success. And then not only everything that you guys said, but the most important thing, when we came into this year, we said the number one goal is to find out if Bo Nix is the answer or not. And hopefully the answer is yes. But if no, we want to know that it's definitely not, so that Broncos can move on from him, get another quarterback this year, or know that they can't build around Bo and try to build their team a different way. And not only did we find out that answer, we got the best answer, which is 100% yes. He had one of the best rookie seasons of all time. And I just feel like C.J. Stroud got a lot of love for that nationally last year, rightfully so as well. Jaden Daniels going to win Rookie of the Year probably. He should get all of the credit as well. But I feel like because of those two guys, Bo's kind of just gone under the radar for how good his rookie season was. He had the second most passing touchdowns in NFL history for a rookie. He had the third most total touchdowns for a rookie in NFL history. And I think he proved that he has the intangibles as well, being voted a captain and then truly leading this team throughout the season. So everything that could have been checked a box for a successful season, to me, 100% was. Henry, do you want to be more definitive with your yes, or are you happy with that?
I said the same thing. I said it's yes.
No, you.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, I said yes. I said yes. The answer is yes.
Okay. So a little more definitive.
No, that's exactly the thing I said before. I said yes.
Okay, so we all three said yes. What did the Broncos brass think? And this is a very interesting question to answer these, or to ask these guys, because they're not going to be truly satisfied until they get a Super Bowl. But I thought the answers that these guys had when talking about if this season was a success was interesting. And let's start with Sean Payton. Sean, was this season a success?
Look, I think you can define success in so many different ways. Look, was it a team I was proud of and we were proud of? Yes. These guys fought. They came together. They, like most teams in our league, hit stretches of adversity, bounced back. So there were a lot of positives to build on, and yet it still was disappointing to finish the way we did. I didn't think we played up to our potential in the last game. We talked already a little bit about that. And so, you said it at the very beginning. There's one team, when the season ends, they all have their final team meeting, exit interviews, but there's one team that's really excited, and so there's that taste left in your mouth of wanting to get started right away. Look, I think
what was Sean's tone there? What would you say?
Do we have any more Sean clips today?
That's it.
Thank goodness. I can't have another one of those.
Wow. What's the deal? What's your beef, bro?
That was 15 seconds worth of talking that he took. It felt like 10 minutes to get through.
That's Sean, man.
We gotta figure out. We gotta put these on double speed or something.
Oh,
wow.
man.
We gotta figure it out.
Would you be able to put that on double speed?
No, which I appreciate. I appreciate.
He doesn't.
Boy.
The thing is, he wants to give you, a real good, honest answer. He doesn't want to just throw some stuff out there,
And I think it's great that he took that time to think. We can save our viewers that time. Double speed.
Wow.
It's and half the sentence is done.
Could you imagine if like a team captain stood up after one of Sean's meetings and was like, Sean, you just wasted 30 minutes of our time. Double speed next time, Sean.
Could you imagine if a team captain stood up in a meeting and said, I think that there are 32 teams, and only one. And the exit meetings, they all go through the exit. Could you imagine if a team captain did that? Everybody be like, "What is wrong with you?"
Could you imagine if that team captain led a team to a 10-7 record and has a Super Bowl in his bag?
Depends on who it is. We're gonna sit there and
come on,
whatever. Like as long as you want to take, we're here to listen.
Okay,
but that's the captain. If it was just somebody who just got there, we'd be like, "Bro, you got to sit down."
Could you imagine that before a game? I know he's more decisive. We've seen the post game speeches a little bit in pregame, but that one got me.
I don't know why that one got you. That's typically how Sean does talk to the media. Sometimes he is very direct, but most of the time that is his cadence.
Well, because I don't hear him talk very often. Because I always just go straight to the locker room, whether it's after game or at practice. So this is the rare one where I have to hear it twice. Because usually you just go through and you read the whole thing, and you're like, "Oh, this is so easy."
Try transcribing.
And that was a minute.
Yeah.
That was only a minute.
Yeah.
You could have told me it was a year.
That's crazy,
man.
man.
Okay. I'm holding you out there next year for some of his 20-minute press conferences.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good stuff and it's smart, and I appreciate that he takes the time, but it does get a little.
Doesn't really sound like you appreciate it that much.
I mean, again, for an audio medium, double speed.
So I think, and Henry, this kind of plays off what you were saying. I thought you were going to say, man, that was brutal to listen to because of how depressed he sounded. And he said, I think, the right things that any coach would say, especially a coach that has won the Super Bowl and wants Super Bowls. We did a lot of good things, but it wasn't our ultimate goal. At this point, how we played again. This was last Wednesday, so just less than 72 hours after the Broncos got beat 31-7 and kind of embarrassed on national television in the playoffs. So he was still feeling that big time. But what I took away from that was, man, Sean, you had a good season. It was successful. Lighten up here.
But I feel like, honestly, I mean, every year you're going to have 31 coaches that sound like that.
Yeah.
There's only one coach that, even if you make the Super Bowl and you lose, you still can't say, man, I'm so happy we're here. You know what I'm saying? We're going to go party. We're going to vacation. We're going to go to Disneyland. And, this year was great. Like, no matter what, you have to be a little bit sad if you don't make it all the way, no matter how good your year is.
I disagree with you a tiny bit. Nathaniel Hackett would have said exactly what you just said if he would have made it through the end of his first year.
But that's why he didn't make it through the end of the year.
Exactly.
We don't even know. That's like hypothetical because he didn't even make it that far.
But come on, we know you would have been talking about Disneyland and all that stuff.
Oh, my gosh. I hope not.
So you guys are right. I think that's probably how you want your head coach to sound. Again, if they are... Again, there's a reason why Nathaniel Hackett didn't make it there is because that's not who you want leading your team. If everything's good when everything's burning in flames, like that meme of everything burning around that little character and he's happy, you don't want that. And so that is the right approach from Sean. But the interesting thing, and what I found so interesting, was we talked to Sean Payton first last week, then we talked to George Payton and then Greg Penner. Listen to George Payton talking about this kind of idea if the season was a success. And, tell me if you think it's a different tone.
Hey, obviously, it's a tough end of the season. Sean spoke about it. Just the finality of the season ending is always tough, but we're all really encouraged by the progress we made this year. The results weren't what we wanted, but just getting to the playoffs was a big step for the organization. It was a big step for this football team, our fans, obviously. But we have a young team. It was good for them to see what it's like when you get to the playoffs. The playoffs are a lot different. The Buffalo Bills, 8 years as a program, you got to face them. Those are the type of teams you're going to face during the playoffs. So obviously we need to take the next step moving forward. That's going to be our focus throughout the offseason, and look forward to doing that. And with that, I'll take your questions.
So that felt like a very different tone. Before we dive into that, Henry, you roasted Sean for the way he slowly processed that. Todd, you want to roast RG, our cameraman, for that camera work right there?
For sure. That was crazy camera work right there. I don't know if he had a couple of drinks or what, but it was all over the place.
That was his birthday.
Then the camera just started shaking at some point.
That was his birthday.
Yeah.
So he probably was a couple drinks.
A little late.
It was noon. You can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning. So
true. And it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so double.
Wow. And a birthday, so triple?
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. I think we got to the bottom of it.
Yeah,
Is he going to pass for that then?
No.
No, yeah. That made me a little sick watching that.
Good thing that wasn't on double speed.
Yeah. Oh, that is so true.
Yeah.
That would have been a roller coaster then.
Would have been.
So did you guys find that if you were able to make it through the seasickness of the camera work, did you find that George Payton's tone was a little different than Sean's?
I felt like it was a little happier.
Yeah.
Big
time.
I think it's two different perspectives. One is like in the locker room every day, talking to players, and one is like put together the team. So ultimately, I don't know, maybe he had a little bit better of a season even than Sean, because all the players that he put on this team and drafted and found and got through free agency really performed well. So, for him, I think even more than, the team going 10-7, like the roster he put together was way better than what people had expected. So he might be a little bit happier than anybody in the building.
Yeah. I think there's just like he's a step removed from it. When you're Sean and it's like George Payton after the game doesn't have to run out to midfield and shake the other coach's hand after losing by 24 points to him, which just wouldn't be a good feeling, whether it's football or whether it's you're playing Xbox with friends, whatever it might be. So I think he's just a little bit more removed. I think the owners are even more removed. Just a lot easier to see the big picture the more removed you are.
100%. And then I also think that no one had a better season than George Payton did, because of exactly what you said. This was supposed to be a terrible roster, and there was a feeling outside the building. I don't want to say it was inside the building, but outside the building that, look, maybe George Payton is going to be a scapegoat for this season if it really does go like Vegas thought, and the Broncos win 5 or 6 games this season. Then that's who Sean Payton would point to fire. Instead, we're talking, and we will be talking about, should the Broncos extend George Payton right now? So he went from beginning of this season like, things go how people think it's going to go, he's going to be fired, to now, let's lock him up for another 5 years, guarantee him, $25 million, and make him the highest paid GM in the NFL potentially. He found Nick Bonito. He found, didn't really find Pat Surtain, but credit to him, he drafted Pat Surtain with that top 10 pick. He found Quinn Meinerz, who's doing workouts in Canada with, weights in the wilderness. He found him, and both of those guys are now Pro Bowlers, all pros, and of course Pat Surtain as well. He also drafted Marvin Mims, who's a Pro Bowler and an all pro. So I don't think anyone had a better Bo Nix as well. No one had a better year than George Payton. I totally agree with you guys, but I just felt that tone was so interesting, how different it was, just like 10 minutes apart talking. And then here's the owner, Greg Penner, talking about this season and if it was a success. Maybe a guy that's even more removed from this situation. Let's hear from Greg.
First of all, on behalf of ownership, I want to thank the players, coaches, and all the staff for just an incredible season. Ton of hard work, and couldn't be more proud of what they've accomplished this year and getting us back to the playoffs for the first time in 9 seasons. I thought Sean did a terrific job leading a young team. Has really continued to build a winning culture, which is critical for the future. It was great to see a number of young players, both draft picks, second-year players, third-year players, as well as some of our free agents that came on board in the offseason step up, and that's a testament to George and his staff. And then finally, this year again, we're top 5 in terms of health, and that's a big turnaround from where we were a couple of years ago. And Bo, Lowry, and his whole group are again doing a terrific job. So the results this last Sunday weren't what we were hoping for or expecting, but I think that experience that the young team got is going to be critical for the future. I will say that while we're incredibly pleased with the progress and a number of accomplishments this year, we don't at all feel like we're satisfied with where we are, and we know this offseason is going to be another critical one for us to build for the future. And then the last thing I'll just say is to Broncos Country.
All right, that was the owner talking about it and being one step removed, maybe even from George Payton. How did you guys feel his tone was?
I thought his tone was positive. All their tones were positive for the most part. But I thought his was positive, and I think you understand, for him, I think it's the big picture of everything. So they want to win now, but they also want to win long term, and then I think he understands that's important to be healthy in order to win. So he talked about health. I think he was the first person to do that. So I think he just touched on a couple other points that, the head coach and the GM didn't touch on. But it's like big picture items, to why this team will be successful in the future.
He's definitely a boardroom guy. Like, very direct and...
Is it the glasses or what?
No, just the way he talks. Which, like, I'm... it's good. It's pacing.
So do you want it direct or do you want it not direct? What do you want?
the pacing's great. I wouldn't say, like...
What do you want?
At no point in the answer did I say, like, oh, wow, my mind is...
fast.
I never
It's
thought...
going
No,
too fast.
keep the speed. Keep
Throw
the
some
speed.
ums in there.
Keep the speed. But, I mean, yeah, like, he hit all the points that you'd hit when you get asked that question. He's good at it.
So then was George Payton your favorite talker purely of his dynamics? Not too direct, but also not too slow?
I mean, so, like, I was in speech when I was in high school. Because, I was pretty cool. And
no wonder you're judging everyone's
this
speech.
is-
Yeah, no.
I see.
I mean,
you were a
that's what-
snooty speech guy.
Yeah.
If we were giving out the medals, it'd be gold for Greg, silver for George, and bronze to Sean. But I do think there was a little bit of relatability with George that, in my mind, I kind of enjoy. Might bump him up to number one.
Like relatability is in like not a multi-billionaire.
As in, if I sat down, if somebody gave me that question and said, like, you've got 10 minutes to write an answer, I would probably write the exact same thing that Greg said. It's like, we did a good job. We're very proud. But also, we know there's more out there. Like, yeah, okay. Which, again, credit to him. He said the right thing. But I don't feel enlightened.
Okay.
And I think that's exactly what you expect from your owner.
Yeah.
And that is where the true vision for the organization starts and everything goes down from there. So I think that's exactly right. You would be just silly if Greg got up there and said this season wasn't a success in any way and just and bash the players, bash the coaches, said we need to do more. Kind of like Henry started to say at the beginning of his answer, like, we're about winning Super Bowls.
So it's a
Until we
success.
get there, we're not going to celebrate any success. He didn't say that. He knows where this organization has been, down in the dumps for a decade right now. But then also adding, we're striving for more. Looking for more as well to get back to that Super Bowl caliber where we put ourselves. So I thought that was interesting to hear from those guys. Now let's hand out grades. You got one
Real
more
quick,
thing?
yeah, I think we might need a poll in the chat about whether George Payton's done a good job because there are some very heated responses.
Well, and we will actually really dive into George Payton
Yeah.
maybe in the next
So let's-
couple of weeks as well.
Let's throw a poll up.
Sure, we can
Yeah.
throw the poll up, but we'll definitely get into that because, yeah, I mean, we have someone saying hashtag fire. Wow, that was not George Payton. That's fire
No,
Sean Payton.
there are multiple fire
from
Sean Paytons
the
in
Do
here.
Show.
It's the same guy.
We will let's throw that in the chat, and we'll get into a deeper conversation about what to do with George Payton's future going forward here. But before we get into our grades, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Bet365, where if you use the code DNVR365 over at Bet365, deposit $10, place a $5 bet, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And if you use bonus bets on last night, I hope you chose Ohio State because they did cover their, 9.5 point spread?
Yeah.
I think they covered that by 1.5 points. And man, that game was a roller coaster. At first, it seemed like, oh, wow, Notre Dame's going to be able to hang with them. They're up 7-0. Then they get outscored 31-0 near almost the end of the game. And you're like, yep, this is a blowout, not fun. And then Notre Dame comes back and almost has a chance to get the ball back with 1.5 minutes left to go down and tie the game up. And we know how that went. But if you want to get in over on bets over at Bet365, we still got Nuggets tonight going against the Joel Embiid list 76ers. Henry, do you know what the line is there?
I think Sixers were like plus 575, and I was kind of tempted.
Oh my gosh, you're going to bet against the Nuggets.
Probably not.
Okay,
but
good.
it's
That's the
kinda
right
tempting.
answer. You
'Cause
got the
bet and then
Avs
you cash
too.
out and then flip it.
And if you want to bet against the Chiefs, you can do that with little plus money over at Bet365 on the Bills. So download the Bet365 app, scan the QR code on the screen, use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. And of course, deposit $10, place a $5 bet, win or lose, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be placed on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never already Bet365. Must be 21 and older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, once help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply.
And shout out to our friends over at
Go
Game
ahead.
Time.
Yes.
If you guys are looking for any kind of tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you got to check out our friends over at Game Time. If you guys want to go see the Nuggets, if you guys want to see some playoff football, which is very, very fun. If you haven't experienced it, you got to check out our friends over at Game Time. And the great thing about Game Time is they have all-in pricing. This feature shows you the total up front. You don't have to worry about getting to your cart and seeing a whole bunch of fees added to your price. You know exactly what you're going to pay before you click your tickets. They have great panoramic seat views, so you can see right there on the screen. You'll be able to see exactly where your seat will be and what your view will look like through game time. They have the lowest price guarantee, or game time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DNVR for $20 off.
Shout out to everyone tuning in with us. Hit us with a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Helps us out. Subscribe, like, and then if you listen to us on the podcast side, make sure to hit us with a 5-star review. We want to get to 1,000 on every single platform. We appreciate everyone who's rocking and rolling with us today, for this past season, for the past nearly decade on this show. We appreciate all of you. Okay, guys, it's time to hand out some grades, and let's hand out our overall grade where you can get a little more nuanced. And if Henry truly meant the successful with a little pitch in his voice, you can give him an A-. You can give him a B+. You can get nuanced with these grades. And so overall, let's grade the 2024 Broncos. I'll start with you, Henry. What grade would you hand out to the entire Broncos for this season?
It's an A.
Okay, there we go. You still
last time I said more,
nice,
I got in trouble,
nice.
so I'm just gonna say it's an A.
No, you got in trouble with how you said it at first. It was a very.
I should have just said yes and moved on.
You should have said.
I should have said yes. And, yeah. Okay. It's an A.
It's an A. Yep.
Good
Todd.
job. I'm actually going to go A-.
Oh.
Because you guys know if you start off bad in school, it's kind of hard to get your grade back up to an A. But I thought they did a great job of battling the entire season, and I think, you know, A would have been winning one playoff game. A+ is, you know, making it to the Super Bowl or winning the Super Bowl. So I say A-, but that's still a very good grade. When you get all A-, that's what, a 3.85 GPA. So
solid.
Going to any school you want to in the country. So
Impressive.
pretty solid.
Wow.
It's like you
was
might
that
have.
what you did?
No.
Yeah, it's like you might have
Okay.
It's like you might have a kid trying to make it to college, so you know exactly what they need to be shooting for right now. That sounds like dad advice right there. And Todd, you are. I hope I never have you as a teacher. That is way too mean. The Broncos almost double outperformed their standards, only getting A-. I got one A- in college, and I hated that teacher forever.
Oh, wow.
I will give the Broncos an A here. A+ if they win one playoff game, because there's nothing more they could have done this season. So I'm going A as well. Henry and I on the same page here. We've kind of broken this conversation down already by talking about was the season a success. And if you want to leave your comments on here, do that in the Toyota chat. We want to hear what you guys are giving them, because I think we're going to have a little more nuanced conversation when we move into the two sides, I guess the three sides of the ball. Let's dive in to the Broncos offense. Todd, what grade are you giving the Broncos offense this year?
Because this is not just a Bo Nix grade, this is an offensive grade. I think they're going to be the B+ to this story. You know, I think they did some really good things in the passing game as the year went on. The running game never really found its footing, and because of that, I can't give them an A. But ultimately, I think offensive line held up really well. I thought we found a couple young studs in the receiver room. Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin will be good. Vele, I think, is going to be a really solid piece for us moving forward. So ultimately, I'm going to say B. What did I say? B+.
Yeah.
That's a little bit nice, but I'm gonna give it to him.
Okay, you're finally being nice. I like that. Henry?
I'll go B.
B?
Yeah, I mean, the run game was just disappointing. They had the moments where they got together, and the pass game was fine. I mean, it was honestly very similar to last year's, I think. But
Without the sacks.
Except you avoided the sacks, you lost a little bit of efficiency. So yeah, I'd say when you stay about the same passing, you lose ground probably running. Although maybe not that much, because they weren't very good last year. I'll say it all averages out to a B. They got the job done when they needed to.
Man, this is actually a really tough one to grade. I'm gonna go B+ here as well. Almost went with the A- just because of how outstanding, in my opinion, Bo Nix was, plus this offensive line. This offensive line was so good in the pass game to help Bo Nix. And once again, guys, I mean, shout out to Bo Lowry keeping this team healthy, specifically the offensive line.
And Vince, you know what I'm saying? Gotta give Vince some love too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Vince as well. Yeah, but Bo's Vince's boss. So it doesn't just, you know,
They're coworkers.
you give the credit to
They work
Bo,
together.
and then he
All of
gives
this is credit to
down
Greg
the
Penner.
line.
But the head
He's the
athletic
boss.
trainer is Vince, right?
Yeah,
Bo's
but
title is like
Bo is above
a little
everything.
bit bigger and better.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. But this offensive line for 2 years in a row has like barely missed any games. 2 years ago, Mike McGlinchey missed one game. That was the only player that missed a game on the offensive line. This year, we're like, okay, they're not going to be that healthy, but they can be semi-healthy. Pretty much just as healthy this year as well. So incredibly impressive. And when the depth was tested, when Mike McGlinchey did miss 4 games on IR, Alex Palchevsky stepped in and did a heck of a job as well. So it starts with the offensive line. What's the saying? If you show me a good offensive line, I'll show you a good offense. That's what the Broncos offensive line proved this year. The run game was so unbelievably underwhelming. The Broncos' leading rusher was Javonte Williams. Do you guys know how many yards he had this year on the ground? As the Broncos' leading rusher in a 17-game season.
400 or something.
Close.
Like 560.
Close. Meet right in the middle. 513. For your leading rusher in the NFL. Broncos still don't have a 1,000-yard. What do we have to do to get a 1,000-yard rusher? It's been since Phillip Lindsay since the Broncos had a 1,000-yard rusher. In fact, the Broncos' 2 leading rushers, Javonte and Jaleel, don't even combine for 1,000 yards. Oh my gosh.
Let me go be minus on the offensive grade. Can I change it?
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
now that we're talking more.
that's why it's like I couldn't go A here because of just how tough. Like, remember how much people hated Melvin Gordon in this town?
Yep.
Him and Phillip Lindsay each had 900 yards in a season. Broncos can't even get to 520 for one guy.
People would have liked Melvin if he didn't fumble, though. His was a fumble thing, not a yards thing.
But he still had 900 yards
no,
in
because
like
he's a real running
back-to-back
back.
seasons.
Like the Broncos just didn't ever find a real running back. And it sucks that Javonte had the injuries, and hopefully at some point he gets back to being himself. But like for some reason they didn't think Odderick was ready. Jaleel did what he did. Like you aren't going to compete in the NFL in terms of like rushing the football unless you have a good running back. And the Broncos put like 3 not so good running backs out there and seemed fine with it.
I thought you said you needed to see more.
I think going into
saying that
well, no,
yesterday?
because now I'm saying you got to go get. I go get a free agent. I go get a rookie and
But
say
you just
like,
said they're not real running backs. So are they real running backs that we haven't seen enough of, or they're just not real running backs that we don't need to see more of?
they aren't real running backs based on what we've seen. And maybe if we would have seen more, I'd say like, yeah, one of those 2 can fit in the rotation. But as of right now, it's like, no, you go rebuild that room because that was not nearly good enough. So that's what it comes down to me. It's like, why do they not have a 1,000-yard rusher? Well, because they haven't really tried to have one. They haven't gone and gotten a running back. Saquon Barkley was sitting there for $12 million last year.
We weren't ready for that.
Nope.
Yeah.
And it's probably the right move to wait, but that's why that was the one limitation the Broncos we all thought they would have this season, and they wound up actually having it. Everybody else surpassed, and that's why they made the playoffs.
Jeez, maybe I'm giving too much credit to Bo Nix in this offensive line because then you look around, their tight ends, probably maybe worse production than their running backs, and we just went off on their running backs. And the receivers, to the receivers' credit, I think the receiver group really stepped up the second half of the season, and it was led by Cortland Sutton. After that Saints game where he had 0 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards, he went on that tear for 4 or 5 weeks where he was literally the leading receiver in the NFL. He cooled off the final few games, but was still a good receiver, got to over 1,000 yards, and then Marvin Mims really started to turn it on. He had 4 touchdowns in the final 2 games of the season as a receiver. Troy Franklin finally got on the board in the playoffs. They saved it for the playoffs. You still want more from that position, but at least you saw some hope and some signs of life from that position there. But really hit or miss, I guess, is what it comes down to with this Broncos offense. Overall, the Broncos averaged 25 points per game, which was the 10th most in the NFL. So that's why I couldn't go any lower than a B+ for a young team with so many pieces that weren't great, but they still got a lot out of this offense, I think.
Second best average starting field position.
Certainly.
There were a lot of points that were helped out by special teams and defense.
Yep. Yep, without a doubt, that certainly helped him. Okay, let's dive in. You mentioned that defense, Henry. Let's dive into the defensive side. And before we talk about the defense, I got to tell you about how to live well with our friends over at Live Well. Live Well Cannabis Store strives to make cannabis accessible to all because they believe everyone deserves to live well. They have 25 convenient Colorado dispensary locations with a premium selection and expert service that await you. Their knowledgeable, supportive staff are there to help you on your journey. Visit a Live Well dispensary to learn more about their wide selection of cannabis flower, edibles, concentrates, and more. They also offer a price match guarantee, ensuring you get the best value by matching local competitors' prices on eligible products. And if you use the code DNVR25 over at livewell.com, you're going to get 25% off one qualified item. If you order online, when you go in store, mention DNVR25 and they're going to give you that 25% off. And of course, if you're in store, just mention it and you're going to get that as well. That's DNVR25 in store and receive 25% off one regular priced item over at Live Well. Restrictions apply.
And also shout out to Toyota. There's bad weather in Colorado still. Actually, pulling into my parking garage yesterday, it was all slippery and it's super steep. It's like way downhill. It's actually pretty crazy driving down it the first time. But when it's slippery, you go like a couple feet and you're like, I'm about to like rear end this guy or go into the wall. Probably wouldn't have happened if I had a Toyota because Toyota is built for Colorado weather. So many reasons to get them. They've got 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the 4Runner, 16 different hybrid vehicles to choose from. A lot of low and zero emission vehicles, more than any other automaker. So yeah, visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL, official vehicle of DNVR.
And shout out to our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball. Todd, I have to imagine, I mean, this is like, you play defense. You're just going to be very nice to him. A+? Let
me give him an A. It's an honest A because they broke the record for sacks in the season for the Broncos. They had multiple games with touchdowns on the defense. And I feel like they won more than a handful of games for this Denver Broncos team. I think they played lights out. Nick Bonito became a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro player this year. Pat Surtain was doing his job. Riley Moss had a good year. I thought the linebackers came in and filled in very well for Alex Singleton when he went down, so you can't overlook that. Defensive line was eating. Zach Allen had, the best year of his career, really. I don't know if he's getting the credit he deserves for how good of a year he had. So ultimately, the defense performed at a very high level. There are a couple games in there towards the end of the season where they could have been better. They could have stopped the run a little bit better, and they could have played a little bit better. So that's the only reason why I'm not giving them an A+. But the average for the entire season is absolutely an A. They outplayed what anybody expected them to. They played at a really high level. Part of the reason why Vance Joseph was getting calls to be interviewed this year was because of how well the defense played. So I got to give them an A.
Yeah, I'll go A as well. It's just kind of tough because there was a couple of games where things didn't go well. And specifically, I guess, against better teams. We played like the Ravens and played the Bills. Teams like that where the speed was kind of an issue. But even then, like the defense didn't play all that well. They also, I think the difference in those games was that they couldn't just set up the offense in perfect positions like they did every other week, or just they made it so easy on that offense. And I think that has to be factored in, is how much they elevated that offense and made things easier on them. So, I mean, they're definitely the hiccups, and I have some concerns about those hiccups moving forward, but most sacks in the NFL, like there are so many things that you look at, and the reason they made the playoffs is because of the defense. So that's an A.
Yeah, most sacks in the NFL, most sacks in franchise history. You have the Defensive Player of the Year, cornerback, pretty darn impressive season. You have All-Pro with Zach Allen as well, Nick Bonito as well. I'm gonna go an A- here. I can't ignore what happened to the defense from December 2nd on here.
So wait, how'd the team get an A then? You gave the team an A+?
Yeah.
So you can't average the offense and the defense.
No, we haven't gotten to special teams yet.
Exactly.
He really likes the special teams.
Yeah, we fired our coach. There's no way you're giving them an A+.
Or the sum was better than the parts.
Oh my gosh.
Which might be coaching. I'm going A- here. And just like people in the Twitter chat are pointing out, about like, man, the last month of the season was concerning. December 2nd was when they played the Browns. Between playing the Browns, Colts, Chargers, Bengals, and then the Bills in the playoff game, I'm leaving the Chiefs game out of there because they played their backups.
They played that.
They played their backups as well.
So does it? But no, when it was Bo and you,
if you want, you
were
can
critiquing him.
No.
You were like, it doesn't matter who played. But now when the defense is in there,
327 in those touchdowns, sure helps.
That definitely helps his stats. Yeah.
So the defense doesn't get the same love.
If you want, you can go and take those stats out. Yeah.
No, what are you gonna do?
Well, we didn't talk. I don't think we can take them out if we need to. I'm just saying I haven't used that Chiefs game in any of these arguments today.
Okay.
So for the offense, so I'm playing fair. I'm leaving that out of the offense, leaving it out of the defense. But in those games, the final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of the season, Broncos gave up over 30 points 4 out of the 5 times. They gave up 32, 13, 34, 30, and 31. They gave up 28 points per game in that stretch. And we're not just talking. I'm not just pulling one game out of a hat right now. That's a 5-game sample size. That's pretty. It's pretty significant. Still an A. The defense was still the 3rd best scoring defense in the NFL this year. They still had multiple scores on the defensive side, but that is 28 points per game is not going to get it done for a third of the season almost. So A- here. Still very successful on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they were just kind of thin. Like when they lost Riley, they just didn't really have an answer, and they tried different things, and there were moments. But I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from me from this defense is maybe just a little more speed on the back end could have helped, but also just more depth really could have helped.
Yeah, and they got the superstars. I mean, they have Zach Allen, Nick Bonito, Pat Surtain. Those are the superstars that you need now. It's just about building the depth. So let's move on to special teams. The Broncos fired their special teams coach, so shouldn't that be a D or an F for this squad, Henry?
I don't know. I mean, we don't have to agree with what Sean Payton thinks, and I thought those special teams were pretty good. Yeah, I mean, they're just the 2 really bad moments. And one of those, I'll even go back. Everybody says Traymon lost them the Chargers game. I see that over and over and over again, and it drives me crazy because he didn't lose them the game. They had a 10-point lead going into halftime. Like, that's not how you lose a game. He definitely opened the door for the Chargers to come back, but that play doesn't hurt nearly as bad as the Chiefs one did. So yeah, I mean, I'll say A-. I think the special teams were really good overall. I think, again, you're 2nd in average starting field position on offense, 3rd on defense. That means you're kicking the ball really well. You're winning the margins. Obviously, Pro Bowl returner, all that sort of stuff. I think every special teams unit in the NFL is going to have a bad moment at some point, whether it's a block or you give up a return touchdown or whatever. Broncos came in a really bad moment, but I think it's still an A-.
Todd?
B+. For a lot of reasons. I don't know all the stats about, punting average or average return, but I think that ultimately, they played well all season. They did have a couple hiccups where it put the team in some unwanted positions, but ultimately between Marvin Mims and Riley and what's our kicker's name?
Kicker is Will Lutz.
Will Lutz. Like, I think ultimately they did a pretty good job. And that block field goal, I'd say that's an O-line thing, so that goes back to offense. Not special teams. But.
Yeah, get out of here. That's I'm giving a B+ here. As special teams, you cannot flat out lose games for your team. You're expected to win a couple, and it's not fair. But it's just like an offensive lineman. If you have one bad play in a game, you probably have a bad game. If you give up 1 sack, but on the defensive side of the ball, if you get 1 sack and that's all you get from a defensive player, okay, that's a good game right there. Obviously, it's a little more complicated than that, but just looking at it on the surface, it's kind of like that. Special teams, you got to win a couple of games for them. Will Lutz needs to make some game-winning kicks. You cannot lose games in that Chiefs game. I don't look at Traymon Smith and the Chargers. I mean, the Broncos lost by, 10 points, 14 points, 12 points in that game. That was not because of Traymon Smith. It wasn't a good play, but that's not why they lost. They literally lost the game against the Kansas City Chiefs because of field goal protection. Is that special teams, Todd? Or are we calling field goal protection offense now?
Field goals are protected by offensive linemen.
Field goal, but there's also other people on there.
No, it's usually just off like maybe a tight
Tight
end.
ends, yeah.
Offense.
Yeah, but it's field goal protection. So we're putting field goal protection
You know
on
what
the
it
offensive
is?
side.
Anytime it's points on the points are up for grabs. So like defense would block the field goal because that's you're trying to stop points.
Yeah.
Offense is trying to get points.
What about punt return? Are you trying to get points?
No, it's like field position. Those are two field
Okay.
position battles.
Okay.
So it's not really like that's why I have a good blend of offense and defense on punt and offense and defense on punt return. But anytime you're trying to get points, it's an offensive play. Anytime you're trying to stop points,
Yeah.
it's a defensive
So we
play.
shouldn't even talk about special teams. Like Broncos shouldn't even hire a special teams coordinator. Sean should just be coaching the punt protection unit.
What about the-
No,
and
we
the
said
field goal
that
protection.
field goal. Yeah, Sean could
Yeah,
coach
so
field goal.
Sean should be
Yeah,
coaching.
Sean-
So the
field
Broncos,
goal.
maybe that's what Sean's doing.
Just field goal.
The Broncos haven't interviewed anyone for special teams coach. Maybe that's what they're doing. Sean's doing field goal, and then
Yes.
Vance is going to do all the defensive stuff.
Well, just field
No,
goal
no, no,
block. Everything else is
Because
still special
punting
teams.
is special teams. That's offense and
Punting,
defense.
Punt return, kickoff, kick return. Those are still.
Oh, so you're being extremely just specific to
Yeah.
take the heat off special teams here.
when points are up for grabs.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, get
Yeah.
out of here. Points are up for grabs on punt and punt return.
No, that's not really the
It's
goal
not
of
a score.
the play.
It's
Of punt
It's
return?
not necessarily a
The
scoring
goal
play.
of the play is not to score. The goal of the play
Punt
is to
return?
get return yards.
If the goal is to get in the end zone with the ball, get a touchdown.
Would you say any offensive play, the goal is to score a touchdown?
Yes.
100%.
So you would, okay.
100%.
I mean, yeah, it's a scoring play that like a field goal is like we either
Literally,
score
you're
or we
scoring
don't.
or you don't.
Like
yeah,
this
yeah.
is an
Like,
attempted point.
Just like
It's like a
an-
two-point
Just
conversion.
like
Exactly.
an offensive
It's like
play.
a two- no,
just like an
no,
offensive
no,
play. Because you
no.
want to boil it down to
Yeah,
Todd,
no.
even admit
'Cause we
it.
hate
Every
those-
play you're trying to score.
we hate
No, you're
those
not because sometimes
70-yard
we're trying to get the first down, so you run a 5-yard out on 3rd and 4. You're not trying to
and
score.
then you hope he catches and turns upfield.
No,
and scores
no,
a
you're not
touchdown.
thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
But no, he
yeah,
Sean
catches
is
and
already
he
down
catches
to the
and
next
runs
play.
upfield. He
No.
picks up 70 yards
So
and
you
goes
think
out of
Sean's-
bounds. So
You
it's a
think
bad
Sean's
play.
going to be like, wow, are you kidding me? You took that to the house? We only wanted the first down.
No, he's not gonna be mad about it.
Exactly.
But that wasn't the goal of the play.
Exactly. So, but in all seriousness, special teams was great for the Broncos this year, but you cannot have them cost you an entire game. And it wasn't just Alex Forsythe. Remember, that play showed up on film, is it 8 times before it actually happened?
Yep.
And that is horrendous coaching right there, and I think that's probably played a role in a coaching move that happened here. So that can't happen. That's why I'm going B+. But overall, I mean, you have an all-pro Marvin Mims as a returner back-to-back seasons. I guess we give Sean credit for that because he's a returner, right? Offense.
No, that's special teams.
No,
That's special
no.
teams.
Okay, before we get out of here, we got some super chats. Let us know what grades you would have. And we got a super chat from our friend.
Real quick, 101 votes.
Ooh.
Should the Broncos extend George Payton? 89% say yes, 11% say no.
Yeah.
There was a vocal minority.
Broncos Country is using their brains on that one there, and we'll dive into that conversation later in the offseason. And Evan chimes in and says, bring Justin Simmons back.
Ooh,
Pulling in some heartstrings there.
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's fine with me. The Broncos got to do it. I can't make the call.
Yeah.
They've given number 31 away already to Chris Abrams' drain.
He can get it
And
back.
Yeah.
I
He only
don't
had 1 year with it.
I don't know if Sean wants to do that.
I doubt it.
They might do it, but we'll also talk about that in depth as well, because Justin only signed a 1-year deal. What was it? 1 year, $8 million with the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm curious what his market looks like. We know the safety market has kind of died off before this year. Then Budda Baker goes out and gets $18 million a season from
It's
the
one
Cardinals.
of the best in the league, though.
I know, but I'm saying like we saw some life from the safety market, so I'm just curious what Justin's safety market's going to look. What is he? 32 years old now?
Yeah. Coming off not his best season.
Yeah, a down season.
I'm
so,
cheering for Justin.
I feel like that
100%.
season, that defense was terrible.
It was a terrible defense, and it's a new system, and yeah.
So
You
we'll
gotta do
see.
everything
Just
on
seen it
there.
coming. Still picked off Patrick Mahomes.
So what this means, he certainly did. So what this means is maybe the Broncos get him on a hometown discount, a coming home discount. We'll talk about that moving forward as well. You can kind of hear the tone if we think it's going to happen or not. But we will be back tomorrow. We have a very fun conversation lined up. If you guys are interested about hearing about Ashton Genty, Tyler Warren, you're not going to want to miss tomorrow at 11 a.m. Hit us with a thumbs up on the way out. We appreciate you all for joining us, voting, commenting, and we will see you tomorrow on the DNVR Broncos podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.